It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas.
What sort of plane is that?
Huh. Well, I wasn't going to bring it up, but I guess now's a good time. You going to go storm Area 51 too?
Hi, Nick.
Hey.
So this is Larry.
Larry 2.0 now.
Larry 2.0. He's getting a new heart. He's really got some history between the two of us. My very first Volvo ever. And every little scrape, dent, scratch that you inherited has a story behind it. And it's been a New Mexico car its whole life. It was won in a game show and then sold by that model to somebody named Larry Rose. That's the way I remember the story. And Larry was a professor at the university, and here we are. So I was probably the third owner. I think you're now the fourth. And you're doing a really big project on it, so just walk us through it. I want to see what you got.
Well, I mean, you at first had the turbo B230 FT in it.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of fun.
That was my swap.
And I don't know, it got to a point where it wasn't enough, right? And so I came across a wrecked Chevy Express van and bought that. And then from there, I gutted it. I pulled the transmission, which is a 4L80, out of it, and the motor, which is the 6.0 from the van. If you see, you're probably like, why do you have a car intake and truck accessories? Well, budget. So I was able to get everything to fit and make it work.
That's beautiful.
So that's why it looks a little funky with the truck accessories and a car intake on it. And actually I was able to change the heads out too from another motor I picked up. Those are the 799 heads, and those are the same similar heads as like 243 heads, like Corvette Camaro heads. They're off of a 2012. The motor and block is and transmission is from a 2004. It had 407,000 miles on it, and barely 500,000. And so then I found it ran great. I drove the van. Like I said, it was wrecked. The steering shaft was broken on it, and I got it to crank over in the spot that it was parked. And the guy was surprised that it would crank over. He was more than surprised because it wouldn't run for him. It wouldn't do anything for him. And I walked up and I moved some things around and took the key and thought, well, let's see. And I just wanted to hear it crank.
Yeah.
And it fired right up, and I quickly shut it right off. And I said, okay, I'll take it. And
so it wasn't an accident.
Yeah, the whole driver's side was just creamed.
And there was no
hit on it.
No coolant in it anymore.
Nothing. There was some coolant in it. There was some transmission fluid. It was full of oil. Like I said, the steering shaft was broken on it, so it wouldn't turn.
Sure.
And Soren helped me move it, and so we towed it and pulled it right up onto the trailer, onto his big dually trailer, and we got it loaded up, and we got it to my buddy's house. And we knew it ran, and so we figured out the steering shaft that's where it was just disconnected, put a new bolt through it, and went mobbing it through the mesa out here.
Nice.
And so that's how I know the motor is good. It's still at 407,000. The guy I bought it from promised me that the guy he bought it from rebuilt the motor at 207,000 miles.
Okay.
Not 207,000, but like somewhere around halfway through its life of the 407,000 miles, they rebuilt it. So somewhere 200,000 they did that. And the van was a one-owner van. The guy loved it and didn't want to get rid of it and was forced from his company to sell it, and so that's why he sold it to his buddy who I bought it from.
And how did it look when you had the heads off? The cylinder walls or the oil pan off?
Dude, it wasn't what you think a 407,000 mile would look like. I've seen motors come out of the junkyard at 150,000 or 200,000 that are just sludge.
Yeah, they never changed the oil.
Never changed the oil. I opened it up and it had the heads I have had that were on this had oil buildup around here, so I was really worried.
That's where a lot of oil sits, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
So infrequent oil changes is what I decided after pulling the oil pan off and looking at the crank.
Okay.
The crank was spotless.
Cool.
It was perfect. Didn't even have any burn marks on it.
And the bottom of the oil pan?
Bottom of the oil pan was the same as this, but it was just slight buildup on the bottom of the pan. The oil pickup tube, perfect.
Nice.
The oil pump, perfect. Those are all things I replaced because I wanted the security for myself.
Yeah.
But all of that was clean, and you could see somebody had replaced it at some point. So it was really nice to see that it was loved on.
And the pistons, did they look original, or were they
They
size
looked
over?
original.
Okay.
They didn't have any marking that said they were a size over. So that's where I can't exactly. There's so many levels of I rebuilt this, because you could pop a bunch of seals on it and pop a water pump and new bearings on it or something like that and claim you rebuilt it.
Yeah.
But really, I think rebuilding a motor is really going all the way through it, stripping it down. I didn't do that. I resealed this. I made sure my bearings were good, and they were good. I made sure...
Plastic gauge?
Yeah. I'm the worst at it. I'm like, I'm going to record that
I would
thing.
be so nervous to ever, like, pop off bearing caps. So,
I was so worried about it. It's scared. I had another friend there with me, just like my other friend who's a master mechanic, just because I was only scared of, like, am I looking at this right? And I wanted another good eye at it, and we went through it, and it was good.
So every seal, including, like, head gaskets and...
Everything. I pulled the heads off of a different motor.
Yeah, I could see.
That came from a gentleman who thought he had a rod knock on the bottom end, but he only had a broken intake spring.
Oh,
and and a bent push rod. So that was knocking around, causing the issue. So I scored a really good motor, and that motor has 150,000 miles.
Where's the block on that?
In the garage.
And why not use that instead?
Because that's a 5.3 and this is a 6.0.
Okay.
But the pistons are different, the crank is different than the 5.3. And the 5.3 and the 4.8 are very similar motors too. The only difference is the crank and then pistons.
A lot of people say that these engine bays are meant for V8s because there is the space. What else do you need to put on here besides the exhaust manifolds? Or is this about everything?
This is just about everything. I need to do the wiring harness. I have the wiring harness all done. I did the pinouts. I got the pinouts and everything off of LS1 Tech. And I can show you that stuff too. You'll find
There's such a support group for these.
There really is.
That really helps a lot.
For LSs in general, there's a huge support group. And then there's an even maybe not as big, but just as big of a support group for the Volvo V8 guys.
Which
I got
leads
the
us to the
motor mounts. And there's two really awesome guys that make motor mounts for these. There's the STS motor mounts. Mm-hmm. That's what these are. And then there's another guy who's really, really cool. He's helped me out a lot with this build, and just lots of advice. His name's John Giffen, and he's in like New Hampshire.
Is that Jags That Run or something else?
John Giffen's Performance.
Okay.
And you can find him on Facebook. He's got a bunch of 240 stuff. I have those motor mounts in the garage. I'd be happy to show too. Check out the transmission mount. That's the Giffen's transmission mount. And that thing's badass. Because of that, that's his new design. And now I can run full exhaust back. Also, I was when I looked at your transmission, I didn't realize something, that it's the same pan as mine. You have a 4L80.
Okay. In my school bus.
Yep, in your school bus.
Is that the better trans to have?
That really is. The better, newer style transmission to have, yeah.
Okay, so while we're down here, what are you doing for a drive shaft?
I am going to do a solid drive shaft. I have a slip yoke from the 4L80, and then I'm going to go back to the Dana 30 Volvo rear end right now. The pulley system.
What'd you do here?
So because I am using the car intake from a Corvette, this is a LS1 intake, and then this is the same truck throttle body off of the van. I say truck, but it's van truck. So because I used that throttle body and it's coming down so low, and I'm using the truck accessories and the truck accessory bracket, that puts the water neck coming out up here for the radiator, where on the Corvettes and on the Camaro, it would come out down the side.
And this is the one you want up top?
I really, really want to switch to the Corvette stuff because then I can go back to the original flat hood.
Okay.
What I ended up having to do was cut this hole out here to make room for the alternator. You can see it bumps into it. You can probably get an angle in here. It bumps into the alternator.
Yeah.
And I really didn't need to cut that big. I just didn't know how much room I was gonna need.
Well, thankfully you don't have to make a hole in the hood or dimple the hood itself.
See, I thought I was gonna have to do that, and that's why I put this hood on.
Yeah.
And I didn't even want to cut this on the flat hood on Larry's hood. I don't want to have to cut any of my body.
You still got it though?
Yeah,
Good.
because I know with the Corvette accessories, it's gonna drop it down the alternator over here.
And you got the space.
And the pump here, absolutely. So this idler pulley was really right here. And so I cut this off, moved it here, because this bolt and that bolt and another one on the bottom are what hold the bracket to the block.
So what about the belt? Was there any issue with moving that idler? Did you have to custom size a belt?
Because of the support group that's out there, that's how I found out about the idea, figured out about the idea to cut this off and move the pulley over here. And in that same idea sort, because I thought about it and found that source on the website, somebody had already posted a part number
Nice.
for the belt, and it's a LS1 Corvette.
It's another LS belt.
It's amazing how interchangeable all of this is.
Yeah, I got an 04 block and a 12 head or intake, whatever it was.
2012 heads.
Yeah.
And then maybe a 2006 Camaro intake. And then these are the EGR deletes. Well, then there's the problem with VATs. You have the vehicle anti-theft system in the computer. And so you have your EGR, you have your rear rear O2 sensors. I left my NOx sensors because I want it to run as stock
kind of
as
important.
possible.
Yeah, those are nice.
I'm not doing any crazy tuning. You have to delete the vehicle anti-theft system in the computer and then trick the wiring harness to still, and the computer to still think that it's in a different car. So really, you get into the computer on your laptop.
Oh yeah.
And you go into vehicle anti-theft, or maybe anti-theft or security systems. Click that screen and go to the drop down that says vehicle VATs, and it gives you the option of on or off, and you choose off.
What do you need to connect to the computer or special stuff?
You can go through a tuner and have somebody pay someone to do that for you, but I didn't really like the idea of that because you're paying one person to unlock your computer, and when they unlock their computer, it is only usable to that one person. To me, that's like giving someone the keys to my car, and I didn't like the idea of that. So knowing a tuner and him saying to me, if you want all ability, buy the tuner, buy whatever computer tuning system you want to use. I chose to use the stock wiring harness, the stock fuse block, and the stock computer. I just want to get it running, and I'm not going crazy turbo. I'm not doing anything wild.
Yeah.
So that I don't have to, start modifying everything. You could use your computer, the stock computer, for that. You'll get up to so many pounds of boost. I forget what it is. You can run up to so many pounds of boost on your stock computer, but you're limited. You're limited on your ability. I wanted to be able to learn on my own. I wanted to be able to have access to my stuff. So I paid for the HP tuners. So I have and you plug it into OBD2.
Oh, cool.
And it works that way.
Do you have the port for the OBD2 and everything, or do you need to transfer all that?
Yeah, I have the OBD2 plug. I pulled that from the van and have that wired into the computer to the harness already.
Nice.
And picked up HP tuners. I got the new version that came out. And that's wireless. It's really nice. It's really cool.
Ooh.
I'm excited to use it. I haven't messed with it yet.
I like the future.
Would I recommend somebody to go buy HP tuners? If this is your only car that you plan on doing in your life, and this is the last car that you're gonna have, that you don't want to get tuned or anything, then no, don't go spend the money on HP tuners. Go pay a tuner to do that. Have them do that. But because I plan to do this more, I have my dad's truck that's a Chevy. I have the other, this is an 04 motor. The computer's an 04. Well, the motor that's in there is a 2012. The wiring harness that's in that is a 2012. The computer needs to be a 2012 because there's two different cranks in it. This one's a 24X crank. That one's a 58X crank. So the computers are different. That's the teeth on the crank. So I can't take that motor and stick it in here So because of that thought, well, then now I have to pay somebody else. Who knows? Who knows what a tuner would charge me? I just know that for the credits for HP tuners, it's $100.
What are you doing for Radiator?
Well, a lot of guys will go to the C4 Corvettes radiators because they're a little smaller. But right now, I'm gonna try the 240 Radiator with an 850 fan.
Okay.
I might have some cooling issues. We will find out soon. It's still gonna work how it should, blowing back, but I'm just flipping the fan so that it's inside of the shroud. And I got this idea from another Volvo guy, another Volvo friend. So usually it sits back here.
Yeah.
But I just cut off a bunch of pieces and I'm flipping it around. And hopefully that works. If it doesn't, then I find a new fan.
Okay, and that's the Radiator here.
This is the Radiator I'm gonna use here. And I'm actually kind of pumped because it's got some, what looks to be
Cooler lines for the trans, yeah.
some transmission cooler lines. But I'll probably use these, but I also have another external cooler that I think would probably be beneficial too.
Is it made for the transmission already?
Yeah, both are yeah.
This is my favorite sticker out of all of them. So we've covered a lot of stuff. Tell me about your decision to keep it an automatic versus going with a manual.
Well, I chose to do automatic for the reason of budget. And it sounds ridiculous probably to say that, but I chose it off of budget and the availability that I already had the 4L80.
Okay, you just wanted to get it running and driving.
Right. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the 4L80. A lot of guys that are running the automatics usually go up to the 4L80.
But if you go from the 4L80 and then decide to do a manual transmission, can you use the same drive shaft that you custom made? Okay.
That I don't know. I think it would change in size. I
Right.
think the 5-speed is a lot shorter than the 4L80, so I think your drive shaft would get longer.
All right.
That's a big transmission, you know?
Yeah.
So I didn't have a lot of room to get it under the car, so I re-pulled the motor back out and then stuck the transmission and motor in together at once. But I ended up having to take the cross member out of it.
Oh, yeah.
Drop the engine cross member because I had no room.
All the way.
I had no room.
Okay, you're gonna keep the brakes like this?
Yep.
Volvo brakes?
Volvo brakes.
Nice.
I'm gonna be running power steering, so I'm gonna try and get that all connected and hooked.
Oh, cool.
This will be the first time I've ever had power steering in this car.
Yeah, yeah.
The second time in a Volvo.
And your fuel lines are just bridging the gap
Yeah,
right here?
I'm gonna use the stock fuel lines that come out of it. I do have a Walbro 255, 300. So I forget what size. It's a big one.
Yeah.
It's a bigger in-tank fuel pump. So I'm gonna remove all of that and pop that in place of the Volvo fuel pumps.
And you'll get rid of the secondary pump?
Get rid of the secondary pump. I'm gonna put a fuel filter in place, and then run it up to a regulator. Set the regulator, I believe, at 60 psi because that's what that needs to run, and go from there.
Is this your dipstick?
Yes, sir.
That's so cool.
For the transmission.
Oh, okay. Still pretty cool. It's gonna mount.
I'm thinking I might not use that one because I don't like how it sits.
Oh, what horsepower are you expecting from this engine and torque? That's important numbers.
I don't know. The head's changed the compression, so I might have. I don't know yet, but I might have gone up or I might have gone down. So really, I kind of paid like $50 for the motor and transmission after all was said and done.
Yeah.
I bought the van, I pulled everything out, and I sold the van. And so on that thought of I paid $50, it was really hard for me to turn around and go buy a cam. I want to. I do want to. But it was running fine with the cam and the push rod and the heads that were on it and the springs that were on it.
Yeah.
Fine. I didn't want to spend $1,200. And I've been told I'm wrong already that there's lower prices out there. But for what I wanted, for what I was trying to achieve, I didn't want to spend $1,200. And so, like I said, it ran fine with the springs and the push rods and the cam that was in it. I did eventually, when I was resealing everything, I found on the back of the cam it had a part number, and so I went on ahead and popped that part number in, and several forums, several things popped up talking about that cam being a Corvette cam.
Nice.
in a Corvette, having the same specs as a Corvette. These are the specs from the Corvette.
What about the push rods? Were they the right length for the heads that you swapped over?
Yeah, they were the same length. I measured them.
Cool.
The motor that this was in had the busted spring and the busted push rod.
I'm kind of a moron when it comes to V8s, but it looks like with the stamping on this corner and the stamping on the adjacent corner, these are just the same head that's flipped over, right?
Exactly.
They're symmetrical.
Here, these are the heads that are on it. I cleaned them up. I mean, you could see there's the buildup.
This is from the
400. This is the 6.0. They're 317 casting number.
Okay.
So like in the 7, I said the 799 head and the 243 heads are very similar. Really, they're the exact same head, except for how they're cast. And then in the 243s, they have sodium-filled valves because it's on a Corvette. These are called cathedral port intakes. You might have a square port, a rectangle port intake, and that's, different horsepower that builds up compression.
Yeah.
On the back side, you could see what 407,000 mile motor looks like.
Goodness. Nothing looks toasted.
No, there's a little markings down in here.
Nothing's broke.
But I think maybe the spark plug I pulled out of this one, I remember pulling out, and the porcelain was down inside of there. Or it was chipped.
The electro
broken on the
tip?
porcelain, yeah. So
Hey.
nothing was inside of the cylinder, and the cylinder top looked mint.
Good.
The piston head looked good. The walls were
Okay.
fine.
Nice.
So I figured it just pushed right back out the exhaust. Bounced around for a moment and pushed right back around.
Well, you're gonna have a lot of fun with this car.
Oh yeah. And the other thing too that changes, I have a picture of this from those heads to this. This is what changes, and that is you have your whole cylinder here. You can see the cylinder for the piston and everything's right here. So on the 243 heads and the 799 heads, right here there's this indentation that comes out. That changes your compression.
Yeah.
On
Yeah.
your cylinder, so you have more opening here. So this is like really good for like a turbo. A lot of guys like to use those.
You want a lower compression with the turbocharger.
Yeah, a lot of guys are using, those 317 heads, or more commonly a truck head, because there's all sorts of different cast numbers, and using that for a better flow because they have a different flow rating than the car.
Nice.
And that's the thing too. These are meant for a truck. Your truck is meant to make torque and power and oomph.
How'd you score that?
I had 2 of them. I found them on some selling app. Some guy had them for sale, and so I picked them up. I was considering to use them for the V8 swap, but I just really want to get it running. So that's where I'm at. These are those other motor mounts from Giffen's. These are really awesome. And
Interesting that they have a little flex to them like that.
well, they're not bolted.
Angle. Yeah.
Oh,
but that's just cool that.
But this is the passenger side. This is the driver's side.
Wow.
And so I really want to do another build. So I have this set on hand. This other set of motor mounts. But then here's how I followed. Here's how I made my wiring harness right there. So this is from the van, the 2004 Chevy Express van, and I was able to print it out in color. And I have 5 pages that I taped up. I went crazy for a couple of days staring at this. I followed these printouts for my car for the 2003 to 2007. I don't know how well you can see it, Dave, but so like I put all these marks here just to mark what I went through in pulling these out. These are all numbered 1 through 80. On one row is 40, on the other row is 40. So there's 40 here on this side and 40 here on this side. I have my blue connector. That is blue, right? I'm colorblind. Okay, and then I have my green connector. This one here. And those go to the computer. And this goes to the fuse block.
Are you really colorblind?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, blue and greens are my hard colors. But I mean, I can see color, but not. They're all very shaded differently. It's weird. So then you go. So this is really is difficult to do all of this being colorblind, because it might tell you to go to the yellow and black wire or the pink wire, which That's another color I have a hard time seeing, pink, orange, and red.
And half of this is pink and yellow.
Yeah, and so I then went off of the circuit numbers and found where it went to. I found that on the wiring diagram, it had 1 through 80, and then it also had the circuit numbers.
I'm getting anxious just hearing about this, so I'm going to my happy place.
It had all the numbers labeled through that.
Oh boy.
So then,
I don't know if I need to know any of this.
then, like this is my OBD2, or say for like my fuse connector, my fuse block.
Okay.
That's the one that's right there.
Yeah.
You have row A, row F, 1 through 12 through what's used.
Yeah.
So A through 12, and then it goes through all. So I was able to look on here through the pinout and look on there and know that in my wiring, it's exactly the same as this. Some of these, it might have 2 options because in 1 year, it might have a different color, and in the other year, it might have a newer style color. So that really helped me build the harness. It was a scary few days. It really was. The coils. I got them from a friend who used them on his car and switched. So I'm really excited to have the nice red ones on the top. Glistening at me like, hey, we're V8.
Well, Nick, thanks so much for showing us your car.
Absolutely, man. I love showing it. Love showing off my Volvo. Keep it real. Keep it close to my heart.
That's it.
1, 2, 3. That's my car running.